Breaking news, US spot Bitcoin ETF faces significant setback as Blackrock iShares Bitcoin Trust halts its 71-day streak of inflows, signaling a potential downturn. With net outflows surpassing $130 million, Grayscale's GBTC records consistent daily outflows. Stay tuned as the crypto market braces for a possible crash amidst shifting investor sentiments. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, and let's start. So, what do we have here? Since block 840,000, there are only 450 additional Bitcoin per day. 450 Bitcoin, which is 45 billion Satoshi. 45 billion Satoshis piled down on this planet every day, which is inhabited by 8 billion people. Each person would receive an average of 552 Satoshi per day if they were distributed equally. And yes, I know it will never be equally distributed on a global scale because you right now know about Bitcoin and the decaying fiat system and others don't. But still, after 1 year, that would be 2015 Satoshis per person. During the entire fifth epoch of Bitcoin, it would be 8,000 Satoshi. After that, the amount is halved. 8,000 Satoshi cost $5 today only. $5 is the amount of the fiat you would have to exchange for Bitcoin today to live in the middle class for 210,000 blocks in a hyper-Bitcoinized world. This does not even take into account the fact that a block subsidy will have halved many times over by then, meaning that significantly fewer Satoshis will be available per person in an equal distribution. Anyone who wants to tell me once again that a train has left can observe in a future how the dollar exchange rate for 1 Bitcoin will have more zeros than 1 trillion bill from Zimbabwe. But until then, fiat will only be on display anymore in the world's most famous museums. Bitcoin is so incredibly scarce that we can't even imagine how much future wealth we are moving today with a single Lightning transaction just to pay for a beer or a sandwich. One such Lightning transaction will move the annual income of an entire family in the future. And if you don't believe me or don't get it, I don't have time to try to convince you. Sorry. Next up, here is why Bitcoin is dumping. So in a historical Bitcoin market cycle, Bitcoin always corrects after the halving. So we are now seeing correcting and price consolidating after a massive pump from 15,000 to 73k. Second, GDP came lower than expected, and just an hour ago US GDP projections came at 1.6% while the expectations were of a 2.5%. Low GDP data ignites fear of recession, which dumped S&P 500, Nasdaq, and crypto. Biden tax proposal. Yesterday, Biden proposed the highest capital gains tax in history at 44.6%. His proposal also included a 25% tax on unrealized gains for high net worth individuals. In the past, whenever there is a such proposal, the market has dumped, and similar thing is happening now. 4. Israel situation. Yesterday, Israel struck 40 Hezbollah sites in South Lebanon. As usual, Bitcoin started pricing in a war again, which resulted in immediate dump. What's next for the market? Low GDP numbers are actually bullish for the market as it will push the Fed to do the rate cuts. After the recent inflation data, it was expected that rate cuts could be delayed, but with the GDP numbers, the probability of rate cuts will increase again. In my own opinion, Bitcoin support at 60k is still very strong with a lot of buy orders, and if there's a black swan event, Bitcoin could go lower a bit more, which will be a golden buying opportunity. That's what we have here. The European Union reportedly prohibits use of anonymous hosted Bitcoin wallets and cash payments more than 10,000 euros. Attack on privacy continues. If Bitcoin wins, humanity becomes wealthy and free. If Bitcoin loses, humanity becomes permanently slaves of the political elites. Burn the boats. Before finding Bitcoin, my relationship with money was toxic. So much money entered my life and left me again. I never lived below my means. I let my ego loose and never had it under control. I was consumed by consumerism. The system owned me, not anymore. That's what we have here. If I were a powerful, super rich, and a bad person, I would create as much FUD in the market as possible to shake out as many weak hands as possible and stack as much Bitcoin as possible on low prices until my competitors understood it. Then I would try to make the price sky rocket as everybody else understands this. As we wait for the monthly RSI double top to form for Bitcoin, our data continues to look more and more like Cycle 2 in 2017. A correction has formed just over 70 overbought levels during March of each cycle. First tops have so far always come at much higher levels of 90 or above, while our current move has only reached a value of 77. Just a drop of patience is all that's required for better things to come for us. Next up, just in, the Blackrock Bitcoin ETF has just broke its inflow streak with over 120 million in outflows. This narrative of record institutional demand was false. We are now witnessing the whales dumping historic amounts near all-time high. The price will soon follow suit as we soon witness a major correction. Just like every bubble pick in history, the retail is lured in at the top while the whales sell and swap the backs. After reaching the historic top 10 today, Blackrock ended up its 71-day streak of continuous net inflows. And this streak is over, and more about this information right now. So the US spot Bitcoin ETF saw net outflows of over 130 million yesterday as inflows into the Blackrock's iShares Bitcoin Trust IBET dried up after a 71-day streak. Per data from the Farsight investors, most Bitcoin ETFs saw zero-day inflows with just the Fidelity Wise Origin Bitcoin Fund. And the ARK21 shares Bitcoin ETF seen inflows of the $5.6 million and $4.2 million respectively. The bulk of the net outflows among the ETF were accounted for by the Grayscale's GBTC, which continues to see consistent daily outflows with $130 million exiting the fund yesterday. The asset manager is prepping a new mini Bitcoin ETF to undercut rivals with lower fees, in a bid to stem the tide of redemptions. IBET's net inflows may have ground to a halt, but BlackRock's fund has achieved a milestone, and after 71 days it's carved into the top 10 ETFs with a longest streaks of daily inflows, overtaking the US Global Jets ETF according to Bloomberg ETF analyst Eric Balchunas. With Bitcoin's price dipping overnight, that places fund's assets under management at $17.6 billion according to firm's official website. Earlier this week, UK bank Standard Chartered published a report pinning the slowdown in ETF inflows on a combination of factors, citing macro factors including higher treasury yields and a more challenging backdrop for risk assets due to geopolitical developments in the Middle East. The report's lead author, Geoff Kendrick, argued that the initial wave of ETF buying may be mostly complete, suggesting that the next wave of inflows will depend on the inclusion of spot Bitcoin ETFs in a broader macro fund. Nevertheless, the bank stood by its earlier prediction that Bitcoin would reach 150,000 by the end of the year. And just today, a report from Advisor Hub had suggested that Morgan Stanley is looking to enable its 15,000 brokers to pitch Bitcoin ETFs to their customers, potentially opening up further inflows and to the funds. Grayscale Bitcoin Trust breaks unusual records. The details. Grayscale Bitcoin Trust has broken a major record, one that establishes it as an unusually underperforming global exchange-traded fund product. According to Bloomberg senior ETF analyst Eric Balchunas, GBTC has maintained its 72-day outflow spree. Since spot Bitcoin ETFs were greenlighted in the United States in January, the product has consistently seen investors pulling funds out, but to varying degrees. Balchunas, who has been tracking the trend thus far, noted that no other known ETF in the industry has this kind of record, a statement that has triggered a reaction from the community. So many attributed the underperformance of Grayscale Bitcoin Trust to the decisions made by the firm regarding its fees. So that's kind of all the information we have for today's video. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. See you in the next one, and peace.